Good evening. Thank you so much for coming out to this wonderful Hope Gala. Connor is truly appreciative of this great honor, but like most 17-year-olds, he's going to leave his acceptance speech up to his dad. As adults, if you've heard the words, "You have cancer," it's hard to believe that you could be more afraid. But for those of us that have heard the words, "Your child has cancer," we know better. Connor and I were recently approached about being a more vocal advocate for childhood cancer. There are multiple groups that would like him to have more of a presence, and that is why an event like tonight is so rewarding for us. The Hope Gala gives us a platform to help raise awareness and, more importantly, money to help find a cure for cancer. However, when Connor began Connor's Hope 10 years ago, after beating cancer for the first time, it wasn't about having a presence. It was about giving back. It was about the other kids just like him. And if it was up to Connor, it would probably remain that way. He said to me last week, "I don't understand why it's a big deal. I just did what anyone would do. I got cancer, and I fought it." You have to admire children for their pureness when they look at life. It is very black and white for them. They don't see their ex as courageous. It is why the Leah Still Award for courage is even more meaningful to me as Connor's parent. He has no idea how courageous he is and how much courage he has inspired to others. To date, Connor's Hope has given out over 900 backpacks to kids full of gifts, toys, tools to learn, and ultimately ways to have these kids continue to live their lives as kids. When everything in their lives is upside down, these backpacks bring a sense of hope for a brighter future, gives them something to look forward to. Connor's Hope is about so much more than his fight over cancer. It's about those kids that fight that fight every single day. It's about those kids that lost that battle and the parents that have been left behind to ask why. And we have to ask ourselves, how was my life different when I was a kid? It's hard to imagine, if you are someone who hasn't had cancer, what your life would be like with it. But it's easy for children to realize how their life would be if they didn't have cancer. The missed trips, school days spent at home, missing out on being with your friends, or for that matter, not having friends because your parents are too afraid that one of those other kids might get you sick. Or worse yet, parents who think that your kid will give their kid cancer, so they don't want them around. I know that when I was a kid, I didn't have any of these things to think about. And like many of you, I wasn't a cancer parent until I was. I sat in the audience at fundraisers and I opened my checkbook for those people whose kids were suffering. But that wasn't my plan. I knew none of my 3 boys would ever get cancer until they did. Our lives were irrevocably changed by 4 simple words: your son has cancer. However, there is some good news. With organizations like the Hope Gala providing events for good people like yourselves, the medical world has made some major breakthroughs. In the past 2 years, treatments have been brought to the table and approved by the FDA that actually cure some type of cancer. Connor was in the first 150 patients of a clinical trial, and that study was called CAR-T. A couple of years ago, I was introduced to a man that some of you may know. His name is Tom Whitehead. And for those of you that don't know, Tom is the father of patient number 1 in that study, Emily Whitehead, and a former recipient of this award. Tom and I connected through Connor's Hope on Facebook, and it was the day before Connor was supposed to start his bone marrow procedure, where Connor was only given a 30% chance of survival if he did do the bone marrow. He told me about CAR-T, Dr. June and Grupp, and their team at Children's Healthcare of Philadelphia, and all that they've done to find a cure for Connor's type of cancer. He spoke with such compassion and conviction that he made me a believer in the hour that we spent on the phone. Tom talked about the storm, or cytokine release. He was vague on the topic, to say the least, but he did say that Connor would most likely run a fever, but that every patient is different. And as you may have realized already, Connor's quite different. His fever spiked past 105, and then it went past 106, and then 107. It finally topped out at 107.2, where it remained for 3 days. And then his fever broke. And just a few days later, we were told that Connor was cancer-free. That was October 28th of 2016, and a day that we won't soon forget. In July of 2017, I spoke before the FDA, and Connor's treatment was approved that day by a vote of 10-0. This treatment, thank you. This treatment is literally the treatment that saved his life, and it's now the treatment that is used for relapse patients with ALL, and it was approved in January of 2018 for non-Hodgkin's lymphoma patients as well. Funds generated at events like tonight go on to support research and development to find the cure, not just remission, but actual cures for cancer. Ladies and gentlemen, you are watching history in the making in the medical world every single day. But those breakthroughs don't come cheap. Be the difference in someone's life by donating more tonight than you have ever thought it was possible to donate before. At your next cocktail party, tell your friends that you're part of curing the world of childhood cancer. Leave a legacy so powerful that anything else you do in your life will pale in comparison to this deed. Some people will live their entire life and wonder if they made a difference in the world. None of you here tonight will have that problem. For Connor, and from all of Connor's family, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts for this honor. There are so many deserving of the Leah Still Award for courage, and we appreciate that this year you did choose our son. Thank you very much. Good night.